Hello everyone, this is Valerie with RV Sales in Moriarty, New Mexico, and I wanted to do a walkthrough to show you how to use this Travel Lite 610R. This is a 2019 model Travel Lite cabover, and I'll tell you a little bit about how to use it. First, you'll notice that it has manual jacks, so that you'll use the crank handle here to crank the jacks up or down. Of course, it's got 4 jacks, so 1 on every corner. I usually try to raise it or lower it a little at each time by walking all the way around the cabover to make sure that it raises and lowers equally. You don't want to just raise the driver's side and not forget about the passenger side, because it'll get pretty wobbly on you. This vent here is the vent to the back of your refrigerator. Usually these clips are turned horizontally. I usually get a key or a quarter and I turn them to the vertical position so that they'll open. I've already pre-done that to make it easier since I'm videoing and talking at the same time. If you look in here, you'll see that your refrigerator works on both gas, 110 and 12 volt. This switch here is your 12 volt switch. This is your 110 switch, and this knob here controls the temperature level on the electric side, either 12 volt or 110. Over here, this is where you would light it through the gas. Currently, you'll see the gas side is on the off position. You would turn it in and then you would light it by pressing that red button back inside of there, and then it'll have that spark to ignite the gas side. Then of course you can control it with that knob to go to high, medium, low, someplace in between to get your fridge to where you want it adjusted. This system, you have to choose one at a time. So if you're boondocking, I'd recommend doing off of your propane. If you're plugged into an electricity at a campground, I'd probably run off of 110. This is your water heater. Usually this tab would be in the slot and turned. I've already pre-done this as well so that it makes it easier to do the video. If you look on the back side, what you'll have here is how you start your water heater. Right now it's in the off position. You'd turn it to pilot and press and hold this, and then it would light. And then after you get it lit, then of course you could turn it all the way around to where it's just on the on position, and that's where you're going to want it when you're actually running your water heater. This is your pressure relief valve. When the water heater gets too hot, it will off a little bit of water so that it doesn't build too much pressure inside. So it's normal to have a little bit of water come out from there from time to time. Okay, so I just showed you the water heater and the fridge. As we look a little farther back on the coach, you'll see this here. This is your city water. So what you're gonna do is, if you're camping at a campground or if you're someplace where you have access to a water hose, you're gonna hook your water hose here, turn the faucet on, and then you're gonna have water going into your rig from there. You don't have to use your water pump when you're using this. This is your outdoor shower. As you can see, you've got a hot and a cold side. This piece fits back up inside of here, and it does have an on-off, so you can spray off the kids or the dog or whatever you need to do. Turn it on and off with this little knob here. Or of course you can use your hot and cold knobs too. As we look at the back side of this Travel Lite, you can see you've got 2 exterior speakers. Of course, your red clearance lights up top. You've got a light switch right here that actually has a switch right here at the bottom. I'm almost too short to reach it. But of course you can turn it on with that switch there at the bottom. You have a port here for your solar if you wanted to use some portable solar. You've got a 110 plug here, that's GFI protected, and I'll show you the GFI when we get inside. You also have a connection so that you could hook to cable or satellite, and of course your 30 amp plug. So when you're plugging this in, you line it up, you line the plug up, you push it in, twist it, and then you screw this piece here down to keep it nice and secure, a tight connection. On this model, you have a gray tank only. You do not have black for sewer because there's no toilet, but this is going to be where you drain it. You'd remove this cap here, hook it to a sewer hose that goes into the dump station, pull this, drain it out, let it sit for a while for all the residual water to get out of that pipe. And of course close this and put the cap back on. You have the lend a hand handle that, of course, when you're traveling, I usually fold it over the door so it looks more like that. Added protection as well when you're driving down the road. I usually travel with the deadbolt locked, and then that way it'll definitely prevent that door from ever coming open. On the passenger side of the coach, you'll see, of course, the two jacks that would be a crank, a manual jack. Right here is going to be your propane tank. You've got one propane tank on this one, and it looks to be about a 5-gallon propane tank. When I go to open the propane, it has the newer style OPD valve, which is now required. I open it real slow until gas starts flowing, and then I go ahead and open it all the way. The reason I recommend opening this valve really slowly is because that OPD valve is designed to shut off the tank anytime there's a fast amount of pressure going through it. So open it real slow, and that will prevent that OPD valve from closing and not letting gas go through. As we go forward toward the front of the rig, this bottom piece here is going to be the outlet for your furnace, and I'll show you the furnace when we get to the inside. And this is going to be for your microwave. This microwave has a little fan. You can push this in and latch it down when you're traveling, or you can open it up when you're cooking bacon or something like that to help get the fumes and stuff like that out. And then that's pretty much it from the outside of the unit, just to give you an idea of what it looks like from the front. Of course, down in the front you've got a window, and you've got bumpers so it doesn't go too close up against your truck. And then of course that's going to be your vent right here for the battery, because you always want venting access for your batteries. Let's go inside this Travel Lite and I'll show you around the inside. I'm going to start like we did before on the driver's side of the unit. So as you can see, we're on the driver's side rear. This big door here, of course, goes into your shower area. Got your hot and cold faucet here. Again, the off and on for quick turning it off and on, but not having to change your temperature right here. You've got a fantastic fan vent, which is an upgrade. It's a manual one, so you'll turn that knob to open it. That knob there will control the speed, and then the little round piece to the right is actually a built-in fuse. There is a light in this shower area. What you'll do is you'll look for the little spot in the middle. That's actually a push button, so you can push to turn the lights on and off. And of course you've got your shower and your shower curtain and your shower drain. It's kind of a tight space, but it'll get the job done. I appreciate your patience. It's a tight quarters, so it makes it hard to video in here. This is actually your refrigerator. So you've got your refrigerator in here. Again, you light it from the inside as I already showed you, or from the outside, excuse me, as I showed before. You've got your stereo system here that's going to be Bluetooth. It also has USB and auxiliary. You'll turn it on with the source button. There's a mute button, volume. Of course, you can program channels, but if you ever turn off your battery, you're going to lose anything that you program. Speaking of turning off your battery, if you ever want to turn off your battery, this is the battery disconnect switch. When it's pushed in, the battery disconnect is off. When it comes out, the battery disconnect is on, so you can use the stuff on the inside of your RV. Right next to it is going to be your breaker panel and your fuse box. Your fuses will be right here, and of course they look like this. If there's ever a break in the inside of that plastic fuse, in the metal that's going through that plastic fuse, then of course it's not going to let power go through, so you'll want to change it. Always change it with the same size fuse, and then you just push it right back in like a normal 12-volt fuse. Of course, these are your 110 circuit breakers here, and then to get in there, all you do is press and it'll open, press and close. This is your water pump switch. So if I was out camping in the middle of nowhere didn't have access to a water hose, if I wanted to circulate water to the kitchen sink or to the shower, what we would need to do is make sure this water pump was turned on and that you had water in your water tanks. I'm going to do a real quick pan around just so you can kind of see what it looks like from here. And right now we've got it set up more as though you were going to be sleeping. This piece here is a table that sits on top of this leg. So you could have that table leg set up and inside of here, and then two people could sit across from each other and eat at this table. If you were going to use it as a bed, you would pull this cushion down and this cushion down, put them in this space right here, and then that way you'd end up with a second bed here. You'd just want whoever was sleeping up here to be careful not to step on whoever's sleeping down here. The next part I want you to see is actually going to be down underneath of this piece, carpeted piece right here. I'm going to push pause real quick and get it set up so you can see what it looks like. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this cushion and I'm going to pull this piece up. So to access your water or your batteries, what you're going to want to do is remove that piece that I just lifted up. This is going to be your fill tank for your water. You open this, stick a hose down inside of it, and fill it up. As you can see, it's kind of a small water tank, so you're not going to take any 30-minute showers or anything like that in this unit. Of course, you've got your battery that vents to the outside that I already pointed out. You could bring a water hose in through the front door, or you could open this window and slide water in that way, as long as it wasn't already mounted on your truck. Your air conditioner is mounted right here in the ceiling. As you can see, you've got your knob here, so you can turn on the fan. You can also go from hotter to colder and select different strengths as well. This is a thing that'll close the vents for you, so if it's putting out too much air, you can slide that knob to close the vents. The TV is a 12-volt TV that is on a swing arm mount, so if you want to watch it from the kitchen, you can watch it from the kitchen. If you want to watch it in bed, you can swing it around and push it back inside. Right now I have it in the out position so I can show you a couple things. Of course, this is your 12-volt power. You've got some USB ports right there if you want to charge your phone. And then this part here is actually going to the TV antenna that's on the roof. This little black button right here is a TV booster that will boost your reception. We've got another 12 volt plug here and a 110 plug there. The 110 plugs will only work if that big 30 amp electric cord is plugged into an electric source. The same can be said about these outlets here, your air conditioner, of course, and then also your microwave are going to be the things that require 110 power from that 30 amp cord to be able to work. When traveling, it's a good idea to stow your TV. I folded it back in and then I put this clasp around it to keep it from rubbing on things as you go down the road. And of course your remote control is there next to it. The people prior put a piece of Velcro on there. It doesn't look incredibly firm, but that's where they like to keep it. Of course your light switches over the bed are operated the same way. You find that center push button, push it in, and it will do its thing accordingly. If you look off to the passenger side, you'll see this is an emergency exit window. It's a long ways down, especially if it's on a truck. So if you're ever in an emergency, think how you're going to jump out before you have to jump so you don't injure yourself more. To open the emergency exit window, or even to just get some ventilation, you release that latch, push it out. Of course, there's a screen over it right now. That little tab right there, you would pull the screen off before you had to get out if you ever had an emergency. Bring it straight back in, fold this over, and latch it down and into place. Your curtains are as simple as grabbing onto the bottom piece and sliding it down. If they're ever not staying up, you can tighten this piece here. Just maybe wrap this cord around one more time, and then that way it'll tighten it up. So when you raise it up, the curtains will stay where you want them to stay. These are your two jack handles that you'll slide over so that you can crank up your jacks. it came with one for each side, which makes it handier than having to share the same one all the way around. Your microwave will work the same as any other microwave. Of course, it's got some pre-programmed things. Say I wanted to cook for 30 seconds, push cook, then start, and your microwave will start. And then of course, to open the door, you open it like a normal microwave. This thing, as you can tell, has not been used. You've got a light and a fan over your sink area, and both are activated just by pushing these two switches. You've got your sink that has hot or cold. It also has your little plug down in there, but if you turn it on, you can see that you've got your hot water coming out of there, cold water on this side, and of course you've got your light here. The owners handcrafted this extra piece because they wanted to have extra counter space, and this extra piece right here is actually built by them to cover up your stove. To do your stove, you would just go press it down and light it accordingly, of course off, and then you've got your different temperature settings. You got one larger burner, one smaller burner. The reason I'm not showing you how to light these is what you'd want to do is you'd press it to light, you'd hear the gas flowing, and then you'd use a gas match or a lighter, but I didn't bring one with me for this walkthrough, so I can't do that for you. Directly underneath is going to be your furnace. Now your furnace is actually going to be controlled over here on the driver's side. This is just above the dinette. And so to activate your furnace is going to be on this thermostat, so you can slide and adjust it to the temperature that you want it. And of course your gas has to be on for this to come on. So I flipped this over because I wanted it to heat basically as hot as it can heat, because it's pretty warm here in New Mexico right now. But once it came on, of course air started coming out through here. It starts out a little bit cooler, but then once it goes through its startup system, it starts putting out warmer air. Back to the passenger side, you've got some storage here, also access to different to your sink drains, water fittings, things like that. Of course, if you ever have a water leak in an RV, you want to get it corrected as soon as possible so it doesn't do any damage. This is your, could be a closet, or they've got it set up right now to be shelves, probably for more kitchen stuff. Down in the bottom cabinet, you'll see a bunch of wiring here. That's pre-run, so that if you ever wanted to turn it into electric jacks, you could buy electric motors and do so. I didn't point it out earlier, but that tube is just an extra tube that you could mount for storage or for your sewer hoses or something like that. From the inside of the RV, looking at the door, of course you have a typical RV door lock. This is your deadbolt, so it's more secure if you lock that. Of course, you can release this handle here, or if you just wanted this green door only, you'd pull that release, shut it, and then slide this over to keep bugs out. I failed to point out a couple of safety features. Down here you have your fire extinguisher. If you press the green button at the top and it goes down and then comes back up, you know your fire extinguisher is still good. It's a small fire extinguisher, so if you ever need it, it's what's required by RVIA. But that being said, it's not a very large fire extinguisher, so keep that in mind. If I turn back around to the front of the unit, you have your smoke alarm here. And of course, they always tell you when you spring forward or fall back and you change your clocks, it's a good idea to change your smoke detector batteries. If it ever starts beeping, it's gonna be probably an indication of smoke, or if nothing smoky is happening around it, but it beeps kind of sporadically, it's gonna be telling you that you need to replace that battery. If you look down low, you're gonna see this is your carbon monoxide and propane alarm. These have a built-in death clock on them. So usually 5 years, sometimes 7 years. If it ever starts beeping, and will not stop beeping, you're going to need to replace that unit because they want you to be safe. Carbon monoxide is a big deal inside of RVs. My dad always used to say you want to pay attention to this alarm if it's ever going off, because if you don't, of course, it'll make you feel pretty tired, give you a headache. Lots of times people just fall asleep, and then my dad says you don't want to wake up dead. You have a little bit more storage down here. You've got some netting and stuff, so you could put some stuff down there, and of course that would be underneath of this table that, if you wanted to use as a table, would sit on top of this silver table leg. The final thing I wanted to point out is that it does come with your 7-way plug that'll plug into your cabover as well as into the 7-way plug on your truck, and then that way you'll have your rear clearance lights and stuff turned on whenever you're driving down the road. So you want to make sure you plug that in. The other thing that'll do is, as you're driving down the road, as long as the fuse isn't blown in your truck, that will charge the coach battery. Thanks again for joining me, Valerie Chowning with RV Sales, for this tour of your Travel Lite 610 cabover.